Alright guys, this problem says find the absolute max and min of the following function on the closed interval -1, 1. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is find the derivative of my function. The function is 3x to the 2/3 minus 2x. When I take the derivative, 2/3 times 3, that's going to give me 2x to the subtract 1, so that's going to be -1/3, and the derivative of -2x will be -2. Alright, since I know that there is no place where this derivative is undefined, I simply need to figure out where this derivative is equal to 0. So I'm going to set it equal to 0. I notice I can pull out a GCF of 2, so that'll leave x to the -1/3 minus 1 is equal to 0. I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0, so 2 is equal to 0, and x to the -1/2 minus 1 is equal to 0. 2 is equal to 0 makes no sense, so we can throw that solution out. And then x to the -1/2 minus 1 is equal to 0. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, so that'll give me x to the -1/2 is equal to 1. And then I can actually simplify this by raising this exponent to the -2. I can raise this to the -2. -1/2 times a -2 is just 1, so that just gives me x. And then 1 to the -2, I can use my calculator, but that also gives me 1. So I have one critical number. My critical number is 1. Well, interesting enough, 1 is one of my critical numbers, but it's also one of my endpoints. Well, to find the absolute max and min, you have to not only test the critical number, but you also have to test the endpoints. Well, you don't need to test them twice right here because you're going to end up with the same number. So thankfully, you only got to plug in two numbers, the 1 and the -1. But you don't plug it into the derivative, you plug it into the original function. So I'm going to plug in 1, so 3 times 1 to the 2/3 minus 2 times 1. And a calculator would come in handy, but this is going to be 3 times 1, and this is going to be 2 times 1, so 3 minus 2, that gives me 1. And then let's plug in, and then this is also 1 because it's the same value. And then -1, if I plug in -1, 3 times -1 to the 2/3 minus 2 times -1. -1 to the 2/3 is also 1. 3 times 1 is 3. -2 times -1 is +2, so 3 plus 2, that gives me 5. And then remember, your absolute max is your highest number, so I'm going to have an absolute max at the point -1, 5, and then your absolute min is the lowest number. Notice that it appears twice. So my absolute min is not only, well, sorry, it's at the same point, right? It's at 1, 1 for both of them. And so that will be my absolute max and my absolute min.